Hello, everybody. It's me. It's Michael B. Thank you so much for being with me here tonight, this Monday night. Tonight, we have a very special show as we're going to be talking about Token Taverns, a arcade bar documentary. I got a chance to watch this thing last night. Guys, I think you are really going to enjoy it. Like, one of the big things about this arcade hobby, there's a lot of really cool documentaries out there. Like, I've seen Chasing Ghosts, I've watched 100 times. King of Kong, if you're a pinball guy, Special One Lit. And I think this movie is going to fit nicely into that category, talking about a relatively new and exciting thing. One I love, arcade bars. Anyways, before we get too far into that, we'll continue on. I got to do the whole intro. Then I got some stuff to show you. This is going to be an exciting night. I've got the director, Bob Rose, here. And maybe we might even get one of the stars, Stormy Daniels, on. Not really, guys, but imagine, right? Anyways, guys, sit back, relax. We're going to have a bunch of fun tonight. We're going to be talking Token Taverns. This is Chill and Chat with Michael B. All right, guys, I'm going to bring the director on in just 1 second. But before we get started, I want to show you guys a trailer. If you haven't seen anything about this documentary, this is the trailer explaining it. It's available now as a special release on Vimeo for those of you who want to see it early. Here it is, Token Taverns.
Our arcade has always kind of been a thing.
There are a huge number of arcade bars popping up all over the country.
It's this new meeting ground for people. They're doing gangbuster business.
We've been busy. We've been trying to keep beer stocked. It's nuts.
Being able to experience this piece of our childhood, the whole nostalgia aspects of it, they just go so well together.
Come on in, play the games, have a beer, a whiskey, my preference whiskey, but
When I walked into my first arcade bar, I was just like almost in tears. I'm like, oh my God, someone gets me.
You get to do something that you love and share it with a community that's incredibly supportive.
90s hip-hop, beers and video games. You're doing good work.
You can't have a business like this and not be passionate about it.
Play the game with the owner of this place and he destroyed me. I might leave that in a Yelp review.
Hi, Stormy.
Hi.
Only in 2020, Stormy Daniels is coming in a reboot.
Donald Trump's favorite character in Mario Kart was Toad.
I'm triggered. I'm leaving.
I was like, oh my God, this guy's got wrestling too in this place.
If you want to play, like maybe we'll wager like tonight's tab on it.
Sweating.
The connection that goes beyond the physical game.
If it wasn't for this place, I wouldn't be who I am today.
I never thought it would become a spot where people love it as much as they do. We're just a friendly neighborhood arcade bar.
Token Taverns, boom shakalaka!
Hey, Bob, what's happening, man? Thank you so much for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and we've got everybody here in the community. Usually I would shout them all out, but that takes forever. I don't know if you ever watched 19K Fox. He spent like 35 minutes last night saying hello to his audience before he even started his show. That guy's nuts. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Bob, I got a chance to watch this movie last night. I thought it was awesome. I was super impressed. Special movie. Great job. Why don't you start by telling us what was your inspiration for making this arcade bar documentary?
Okay, sure. Okay, so first off, I travel a lot with work. I mean, TV and documentaries are my day job too. So this is like my side job. This is my personal thing. But yeah, so I travel a lot and I saw all these arcade bars just popping up all over the country. Like every city I went to, like my thing used to be when I would go to a local area, it would to check out the local craft beer. And that kind of transitioned over to going and checking out arcade bars. And so when I saw that, and then I saw that obviously there hasn't been anything that touched on it on a long format way. I mean, you know, even if you look it up on YouTube, it's difficult to find things about the subject matter.
Yeah.
It's just about arcade bars coming out. So it was a cool way to be able to check off a couple of check marks on doing a video game documentary as well as doing a beer documentary in a way. So it's just scratching too many itches at the same time. And it's what I do. I mean, I'm in my office / arcade right now, and I started in at this as a hobby. So, I mean, the way I make my films now is I need to be into it because I'm going to be spending the next couple of years doing it.
Yeah, I did want to ask you that. How long did it take you to actually make this documentary? How long were you filming, editing, putting everything together?
Sure.
Looks like about 4 years.
No, well, I will tell you, it's been 3 years since when we started.
Yeah.
A little bit more than that, but the film has been finished for a while. We actually finished it up in 2023 towards the end. However, I did just deliver it about a month ago to my distributor. So I was kind of tweaking, even through the screenings we did this summer. I was constantly tweaking and kind of getting it down to a shorter, tighter format. But I will tell you, okay, so filming wise, we started filming a little bit before COVID. Obviously, COVID happened. That becomes a part of the story. And we filmed these arcade bar owners over, like, when you see the film, you'll see we really settle in on 3 arcade bar owners in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah.
And I followed them around and hanging out at that bar for a good like a year and a half.
Wow.
Or so. Not quite 2, but close to 2. And there was a lot of factors with that, in that COVID does become a part of it. And you'll see when you watch this movie, it's not a COVID movie, but you meet these people, you see what arcade bars are all about, and these things happen. Well, I gave time for it to kind of get out of that too.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I even stopped filming for a good 5 or 6 months or so. So it was with a constant filming, but I stopped filming for 5 or 6 months just to allow the stories to progress and for us to get a little less COVID-y, if you will. and you know, also as a filmmaker in this documentary, you see these stories and there's certain kind of finish lines, or you see where things might go. And so there's a little bit of patience in allowing that to happen. A lot of these scenes you see towards the end of the movie, I knew those were coming, and I waited for those specifically to help finish the movie and kind of tie it up in a nice bow.
So I don't want to get too ahead of myself with the questions here. I was going to ask this later, but I think it's a good time to break it out now. So right now, I saw someone else mentioned, is this available on a TV streaming service? Chris Nesbitt here asks, is the documentary only available on Vimeo? Not sure it's available in Canada. So there's a couple of things there. This is a special release right now, right?
Right. So here's the situation. I've got a distribution deal with Indie Rights, and it's going to be eventually distributed worldwide. And so very soon, and I'll tell you guys this, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be available on Amazon. It will be available on Google Play. But the way they work is, especially with this kind of independent film, they don't give release dates. Yeah. So it's just going to pop up, and everybody, as many times as I've been asked, like, is it going to be on other platforms? I've been asked way more, when is it going to be available? We're ready to see it now. And this is all coming from people in the community. So I opened up this window with my distributor specifically for the community, so we can do what we're doing right now. Like right now, almost everybody that is seeing this movie is people within the community. Yeah. And I wanted you guys to see it first. I mean, it's really made for you. So you should be the first ones to see it. You should be the first ones to comment on it, first ones to rate it before general public, pops in, which is obviously going to happen when they get onto these bigger platforms. So, so that's kind of where the Vimeo on-demand link came from. And it's kind of a cool way to give you guys kind of the sneak peek and the first look at Token Taverns.
Now, he mentioned something about Canada. Like, I know you can't say anything about this, but if you did want to watch it in Canada, there's these things called VPNs and stuff like that. And the sad thing is, I actually turned down several sponsorships for this, so I could actually be plugging it here and making money, but I screwed up, man. I didn't take the sponsorship.
Yeah, I hear that, man. Hey, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Yeah. I mean, but I will tell you that, I mean, part of the reason too is we couldn't really make it available Vimeo everywhere right now, because my distributor is about to take Token Taverns to like the international film market in October, which is coming right around the corner, and is looking to get this off to territories across the globe, which is really cool because, I mean, if you really do your looking around, these arcade bars, it's not just here, and especially post-COVID. I mean, you know, search hashtag arcade bar on TikTok, and half the ones are going to be arcade bars opening in the UK.
Yeah.
And I had a guy actually who just recently watched it, who's opened an arcade bar in South Africa, and he wanted to do a screening. I mean, he was super pumped.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know if we could do that, but yeah. So he's like the first arcade bar in like South Africa.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a worldwide thing, man. And you know, let's be real. I mean, the world loves America nostalgia almost as much as we do. And there's a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, actually, we'll talk about that a little later. One of the cool things is one of the arcade bars, and hopefully I'm not spoiling anything, right across from Hulk Hogan's place there.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Clearwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a Tampa Bay film. You know, I'm based in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I will tell you, for those wondering, like, oh, why didn't you go to this arcade bar? Or why didn't you do this, do that? We originally had the idea to travel around the country and hit a number of arcade bars and maybe settle in on a few. You know, when you start these movies, you just kind of start with an idea and then you start filming. And then you kind of, this is the way I work. I let the story kind of tell me what's next. Like, it's that the cool thing about documentary is that you don't know the ending. You don't know where it's going. So I kind of roll with that a little bit. And COVID really took us for a turn. And that's where our pivot happened, was we then said, well, you know what? We can't go anywhere. Let's just stay at home and really cover these 3 arcade bars well, and as well as one that we hit down in Fort Lauderdale a little bit. And that was really the biggest happy accident of the film.
Yeah.
I think because of that, we spend a lot of time with these arcade bars. So you get to know the arcade bar owners. You get to know the barflies. We're seeing the releases of pinball machines as they came out, you know. And through the lens of these arcade bar owners and through the, you know, the barflies, the patrons as well, it's really told through their lens.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, you get more attached to the story, and there's more emotional impact in some of the scenes because you get to know these people.
Yeah.
You know?
I was going to say that because of the fact that it ended up being a much smaller circle, it gives the movie a different heart, different soul to it. And plus, you don't want to do all the arcade bars right off the top. I mean, the sequel's got to come out. Token Taverns, Token Harder.
Well, you know, too, I mean, look, here's what would have happened if we had gone on tour and just hit, let's just say we hit 6, 8, how many arcade bars? It's just going to get diluted, right?
Yeah.
It's just what it's going to end up becoming, which this is okay, but I just don't think it's as good of a movie. Is it becomes people talking about arcade bars and just seeing people playing footage. And as somebody who's seen it, I think you can attest it that is not what this film is.
No.
This is very much a narrative story. I mean, I'm a movie guy and I love documentaries. So my goal is always and I work in documentary television as well. So I'm always trying to make it as much of a story as possible. And, you know, I think we got that with this one.
So really quick, let me just bring up this comment here. There's a guy that you might know, Retro Ralph. What's up, MB and Bob? I hope everybody gets a chance to watch the movie. I think you guys will really enjoy it. So probably my favorite thing, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling anything right now, is in the opening credits, when they list like all the stars' names together, it's in pairs of 2. And Ralph is there. I almost said his last name. I don't want to dox him. But Retro Ralph is there, and he's paired with famous actress Stormy Daniels. And I had to chuckle right there. I was like, that's the 2023 crossover I never saw coming.
Right. Well, it was either going to be that, or I just put Stormy Daniels right next to Billy Mitchell, and we just hit all the polarizing people just right in one graphic, right? Everybody's like, what the hell's going on?
So guys from the home arcade space, I mean, obviously everybody knows Retro Ralph. He's one of the pioneers of this space, moved on to his real passion now, back to, you know, repairing, customizing real arcades. He's doing a great job with that, and he was a great part of this movie too. There's so many great guests that you had that weren't necessarily related directly to the Barcades, but give such a depth and experience with arcade culture that really added to the movie overall. So Ralph was a good choice, and I'm sure a lot of people that miss Ralph, they're going to be excited to see him in this and see him in a different way, I guess.
Yeah, Ralph was great. You know, just to give you a little bit of behind the scenes with Ralph and in the movie, is the movie was kind of like in a rough cut form.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to connect, even though this is very much about arcade bars. I wanted to find a way to connect that to the home arcade scene a bit as well. And so, and I also had like some points that needed to be made, some holes in the movie. And so I reached out to Ralph, and he was great. And, you know, I even saw some of his broadcasts through COVID, which really inspired me. And some of that stuff is in the movie. And, you know, it was just great to kind of have him in there with some of these other arcade heavy hitters and tie it into the home arcade scene. I mean, and I don't know if you know this or not, but even there is a small section, not a section, but home arcades are mentioned in the movie by Mr. Walter Day. And some of the B-roll in that is actually Steven from Game Time, Steve Haywood. That's his
Tech
arcade.
Buzz, yeah.
yeah, that's his arcade.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know, I try to tie it in as much as I can. It's not about home arcades, but you know, that's kind of where my interest level started. So, you know, I'm trying to tie in as much stuff as I can. I mean, I love wrestling. There's some wrestling shit in there, guys.
Oh, I did. We're going to talk about that too. So really quickly, we get a super chat here from a fellow by the name of Stringer Films. You ever come across this guy?
Absolutely. So I met Stringer,
right?
Yeah. So I met Stringer I met him at Southern Fried Gaming Expo.
Yeah.
And he was out there with Ralph and a bunch of the guys. And yeah, Stringer's great, man. I can't wait to see his arcade the next time I go to Atlanta. But he's great, man. And he actually shot a cool interview with me while we were there. Just super, super cool guy. You know, I'd seen all the messages and his interaction. I was like, oh, this guy's got a similar sense of humor. But yeah, it was really cool meeting him.
Stringer's actually really super nice too. Like at last minute, all the time, he's like, "Man, if you want to come to Southern Fried, you can like shack up here. Like Nick Madsen's gonna stay here and stuff." And I was like, "You don't even know me, dude. I could be a serial killer." He's like, "That's fine. Come on down."
Well, I'm glad you told me that. If I go there next year, I'll save some money on the hotel.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta stay at Stringer's because he's very accommodating and there's an awesome arcade there.
Yeah, I'll be like, just throw a sleeping bag in the arcade. Yeah. Those sounds put me to sleep anyway, you know?
All right. So I apologize. We do this thing here on it when I get a super chat. For the last little while, I've been playing this video talking about it because my super chats, I make jokes. It's all going towards me buying a pinball machine. So you guys know what's coming.
Do it.
You got to give the people what they want, but I got to do it a little bit different because people were complaining and some people said it bothered them. So I've got a little bit of a different video to share with you guys today. Thank you so very much for your generous support to Michael B. the Game Genie. All funds received will be used for the purchase of a new pinball machine. For me. Thank you once again. Hopefully that's not as annoying as the old pinball chat videos, but we'll see how many times that gets played. Bob, you look crystal clear now. So did we find out what was going on?
I did. You know what? You know, I don't go on webcam every day. I was like, why does my screen look like a terrorist video or something? And yeah, it just has some schmutz on the lens. I just wiped it off with my shirt.
You guys have no idea. Before the show, he was like, "Oh man, I got to do this speed test." And then he plugged in his Ethernet and he's like, "I don't know what's going on." Smudge. It was a smudge.
It was a smudge. Yeah, I got light on me and everything. I was like, "What the hell?" But we're good now. We're good now.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the movie. I did want to talk a lot about the people in there because there is some just iconic guests that you have. And I hope I'm not spoiling too much by talking about this, but they're in the credits, so it won't be too bad. But I mean, you've got Ralph, like we mentioned earlier. Of course, we've got Walter Day, Billy Mitchell. You've got Doc Mack. I met Doc Mack last year when I was in Chicago. We actually tricked him because he wasn't at Galloping Ghost. So B Kong, told the guy at the front desk, like, we're famous YouTube celebrities. And poor Doc got up out of bed, came down to see us, gave us a tour. But anyways, what a super nice guy and just so much valuable insight on top of everybody else that was involved in the arcade bars. These guys did such an amazing job, like really giving the history of the arcade culture and talking about this new future going forward with, basically these arcade bars.
Exactly. And, that's kind of it was the tricky part of the movie. But I think it's also the cool thing is that, when you watch this, 80% of the movie is these 3 arcade bars and their journey through these 2 years. But then we have these little vignettes where these arcade legends, these arcade, figures, if you will, icons. They kind of chime in. They're there to talk about arcade bars as an industry and as a whole, whereas the other bars are just talking about their personal story. So they're hitting on what are arcade bars, why are they cool, that we also get into our own version of the 80s and the blow up of arcades and the fall down, and then how that leads to arcade bars kind of bringing it back, and then they're going to hit about the future of arcade bars. So that was an interesting thing to weave in to where you can be in this very narrative docu-drama kind of story, but then have these little vignettes that come in where they can kind of comment on arcade bars kind of as a whole.
Yeah. So obviously one of the controversial things about this, or I would say more so, this guy's a polarizing figure, is the involvement of Billy Mitchell. For some reason, there seems to be this wedge right down the middle where people are like, he's a cheater, and like there's so much venom thrown towards him. But at the same time, I think people forget, like, he's such an icon in arcade history before, King of Kong and what everybody is upset about. I mean, he legit did set these scores and he's still involved. So why don't you tell me how he ended up being involved with the movie and kind of his role in the movie?
Sure. Okay. So he kind of like fell into our lap a little bit. So we were filming down at Glitch Bar in Fort Lauderdale. And when I went to set the interview up, one of the guys there was like, hey, Billy Mitchell kind of plays here. He live streams here. And he comes here all the time. Do you want to do an interview? I'm like, sure. Yes, let's do that. And honestly, he gave a great interview. But here's the thing. One thing that I can say about Billy Mitchell and his tie-ins to this movie is this isn't a Billy Mitchell film. This isn't about Billy Mitchell. As much as Billy Mitchell may talk about himself or whatever, it's not that in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's really is there commenting on Glitch Bar and what's cool about Glitch Bar. He does live stream there. He did do a couple Perfect Pac-Mans there as well in his live streams. And then he's commenting about arcade bars. I mean, he's just like these other guys talking about the 80s. I mean, I think he's very qualified to talk about what things were like back then. But this is not about Billy Mitchell's high scores. This is not about what he did or didn't do. I mean, there's a couple little jokes in there, you guys, and make sure you stick around during the credits.
Yeah.
Make sure you watch the after credits, guys, to see a little Billy Mitchell. It's pretty funny. You saw it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We won't spoil it, but I will say this about Billy Mitchell, and I can only speak of my interactions with Billy Mitchell, which was filming with him and seeing him at conventions. Filming with him, he was great. He's a very giving person. I've got a box full of, I should have brought him out, a box full of Token Taverns hot sauce that he made.
Get out of town. Wow.
He just like gave us a box at our first screening and for film festival. But then he also made a box for Lowry Parkade. He also made a box for Vector, and he made a box for Glitch. All these, and just gave it to him without asking. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool, and like it's also kind of cool to have a hot sauce. I haven't tried it yet, but And I'll tell you this too about him. Whenever I've gone to a convention, and you even see this in the movie, there's a part in one of the expos where you see the beginning and it's early morning and you see Billy Mitchell walking in, and it's very much like that. He's like the first person in and he's the last person to leave. He's hanging out as long as people are watching him play Pac-Man. He's hanging out and he's very giving in that aspect. Now, how he acts online or what he's got going on legally or what the comments and all that, I don't know. I have nothing to do with that. That's just not my interaction with him. But I will tell you, I think when you watch this movie, I think he does give his interactions with the movie, I think, make it a better film. And when you see key scenes with that, I think you'll understand what I'm saying. I don't want to spoil anything. But he also is unlike some of the other guys like Tim Kidsrow, Mr. NBA Jams and Walter. They're very much in there in mostly an interview format because he did go to Glitch and he actually pops into one of our other arcade bars just organically. He does become a little bit part of some of the scenes. And I think there's some funny and great moments. I mean, you can even see some of it in the trailer where he's playing and going to bet, Donkey Kong with one of the owners. It's a fun scene, man. It's a really fun scene. And I mean, that's kind of my interactions with Billy Mitchell. There are certain people that are not going to watch this movie because he's in it. I mean, there's going to be some people who might not watch it because Stormy Daniels is in it. But I'll tell you, their interactions in the movie, actually, I think it helps the movie. They have a contribution to this film. They're not throw-ins at all. So I mean, what is your take? You saw the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like the Billy Mitchell that everybody knows is the Billy Mitchell from King of Kong, where he is set up to be the villain in the movie, and maybe his actions, validate that. But like, if you watch another great documentary on arcades, Chasing Ghosts, I mean, not the same person in that movie. You can tell, completely different. And the Billy Mitchell that's involved in your movie, it's short, it's concise. He's there just stating facts. It's not about him. It's about arcade history. And I thought he did a great job.
You got to mention this chat that's up here right here, because actually that seal is in the movie.
Yeah, it's in the movie. Nick was at Southern Fried Gaming Expo. That's how he knows about it. So he's seen the movie already.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So Nick wants one for him and his wife. So we're gonna have to try to figure out some way to get him a sticker.
Nick, just DM me, man. I'll get him to send you one. I'll get him signed.
That's dope. That's dope. Thank you so much for doing that. And very, very, very quickly now, I got to do it again. I got to give the people what I want. I'm sorry, Bob. I just like digging people. I can't help myself.
Do your thing, bro.
$2 US for the sincere pitch for pinball funds. You guys are the best. Thank you so very much for your generous support to Michael B. the Game Genie. All funds received will be used for the purchase of a new pinball machine. For me. Thank you once again. That's not going to get annoying at all. I'm not going to do it every time. I can't do that. All right. So we've also got another super chat here from Stringer Films. Walter Day is an excellent driver. I can't confirm or deny that. Have you ever been in a car with Walter Day?
No, I have not. And I've seen, I don't know if I'm rolling that way, but I would definitely sit down and meditate with that guy. Did you see the footage recently where he's like meditating in the hall of Harry Potter? I mean, Walter's super cool, man. I will tell you, I feel very privileged to interact with him, interviewed him, and hung out with him. He's a great guy. Great guy.
Yeah. Anyways, he's a wild dude.
I haven't. I've only hung out with him in cons, so I don't know life outside of that. Maybe he lets his hair down and gets crazy. I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry to talk about another movie, but have you ever seen? King of Kong?
Sure, of course.
So you see, like, where he's at his place where he lives. He's like playing the guitar, and you're like, yeah, I think in a different life, he could have been a cult leader. I'm almost 100% sure.
I know he's got like an album or something coming out, I believe.
All right. So going back to the movie, a lot of this stuff, a lot of what happens in the movie, what makes this so magical is it's all natural. And a lot of stuff is just really happenstance. So you talked about Stormy Daniels' inclusion and Stormy Daniels' involvement. I mean, this is not something that you went out and pitched. You didn't contact her agent to try to get her in the movie. This is just something that kind of happened organically and naturally, and that's the role she plays in it, right?
Right. Well, full disclosure, I do know Stormy Daniels. I've known her for a while, but I also know her assistant.
Yeah.
And he actually had come out with us a couple times to two of the arcade bars, and he's actually in the movie prior to that. A fun little scene with my wife where she's completely hammered, which is hilarious. So he had seen it and he had mentioned it to her, and she was in town. And so he was coming there with her, and she was coming, I hadn't seen her in a while.
Yeah.
So she was coming to the place. But what I did was I knew she was coming. As a producer who's also done a decent amount of reality TV, I did know to catch her the real deal. And I did the same thing with some interactions with some other scenes, is that I put a mic on George, the owner of Reboot, and I put a mic on Stormy, and then she walked in and I filmed what happened. It was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
And that was that, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to film it. Right.
Oh, he made that trailer about, he made that joke in the trailer about Donald Trump's favorite Mario Kart character. And I was like, wow, he went there.
So when he did that honestly is what cemented her, and it's in the trailer. There's no spoilers here, but you have to see the whole scene.
Yeah.
When he said that, I instantly, there's a couple times I hear stuff in the movie when I'm filming it, and I say, that's a trailer moment. So if it's a trailer moment, it's going in the movie. And that tie-in directly to the joke about Trump and tying that into Super Mario Kart, I mean, does it get any better than that?
I would be worried. Like, I'm a bit of an anxious guy. So if I was in your situation and you had like Stormy Daniels there, and then someone made like a joke like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, she's gonna storm out of this. This might get really nasty in a second.
She's got an amazing sense of humor.
Yeah.
I will tell you that about Stormy Daniels. She's a cool lady, and she's pretty goofy. So I filmed a documentary pay-per-view with her years and years and years ago, like 2008 or 9, like kind of like a Sturgis biker thing, not her normal job work, but something a little more rated R. And actually did a reality show pilot with her in 2010. So I go back with her for a while, and it was interesting seeing her interacting with George, who was like a deer in the headlights, dude.
Yeah,
he was like, I mean, he said some funny stuff, but he was like thrown off.
Bob, I'm gonna put us down on the bottom, because here's the funny thing. I was looking up Stormy Daniels stuff earlier, and I didn't even realize this. So I was looking it up. And I was like, I have some video in the background of Stormy. I didn't even realize this is your video that you shot right here. So this is Stormy Daniels.
That's it.
Sturgis Exposed. Yeah.
I'm texting her right now to let her know we're talking about her.
I had such a crush on Stormy Daniels back in the day. Now she was on the high-end sites, not necessarily the free sites. So I didn't watch a lot of her art films, but when I saw them, I thought she was very attractive.
Yeah, so when you get done, definitely poke around, because on my YouTube channel I do have the pilot. It's a 5-minute sizzle, very much in that kind of reality TV time of like 2009 or so. That's around when this was. But here's the funny thing I'll tell you guys is on a side note, because I did know her back then. Like, I got a call from 60 Minutes when all the stuff was going down.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they're actually making, I won't tell you that. There's some projects coming out with Stormy Daniels soon on Peacock. And, I don't think it's been announced yet, but she's got some cool stuff going on.
Really good, man. Like, always seemed like a, really cool person and stuff like that. Every interview I've ever seen with her. I didn't really follow all the political stuff. I stay out of that. I live in Canada. I don't need to deal with this stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, I was really surprised. She came in. she was a good sport. And you know, her knowledge of certain things I was very surprised by, because there's one point where she goes into the bar and she goes into a back room and they're doing something not necessarily arcade, but into the culture with some tabletop type stuff. And she was like, super knowledgeable, man. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I was too. But it's a fun little scene in the movie. It's a fun little cameo. And the funny thing about it, because she's on our flyers when I'm going to the expos and stuff, and she's on our like stand-up banner with all the other people. And so everybody's like, okay, Tim Kidsrow, Walter Day, Stormy Daniels, like, and that's what I love about it, because it's that I love having that fun cameo where you're like, what the hell is this person doing in there? We'll watch and see, right?
Yeah, I actually had one of my friends write me earlier today because he saw my thumbnail for today, and he's like, "Why is Stormy Daniels on it? Are you just going for the clickbait?" And I was like, "No, man, she's in the movie." It's like it's the kind of thing I will tell you. Like when I didn't really know she was in it, and like the first time I saw her involvement, I was like, I almost did a double take. I'm like, what?
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, Stringer Films, $2 super chat. I won't play the video, but tell your wife I said hi for me. Enjoyed talking with her at Southern Fried Gaming Expo. That's for you, Bob.
Absolutely. I will tell her. And I'll tell you guys something too. It's not as much a thing now because I actually re-edited a lot of it, but we actually had a drinking game for how many times my wife shows up in the movie.
Oh, wow.
there is a thing about like, well, she's here all the time, but she actually is dressed as Elvira in a pinball scene.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my wife. Yeah. That's always fun, you know, going through the expos. If we need some attention, like, be Elvira. But yeah, she's in the movie quite a bit. She's got some talking scenes, and you know, this movie becomes very incestuous, for lack of a better word, in that these are our friends, and if they weren't our friends before, they are our friends very soon into the filming, and they're all our great friends now. So she almost became part of it in some ways, in a couple scenes there towards the end. And, you know, she opens up a lot of doors and B-roll and things like that. But, you know, I will say, kind of a side note, and I think this is the coolest thing about this documentary for me, is all the people who I've met, all the friends I've made. I mean, even here, yourself included, like, we haven't met each other, but I consider you a friend with our interactions. Ralph, same. I mean, and all these arcade bars and all the patrons in there. I mean, we've got a nice little kind of crew on this thing now. And Lowry Parkade is our hangout. I mean, my wife are there. I mean, I was just there last Wednesday. We had a screening. I was there the Monday before. I'm usually there at least once a week just to play pinball and catch up with people and stuff.
So really quickly, Jason, you might be a little bit late, but yes, Retro Ralph is in the movie. He shares a credit on the opening scene with Stormy Daniels. And there was another one here I wanted to bring up really quickly. Finn's Bassman. Finn's, I'm sorry, it didn't get caught in my streaming software, so I can't bring it up, but I do have it here in front of me. Finn's Bassman sent me 2 super chats, Australian dollars, both $7.99. Finn's Bassman said, "Hello, Michael B. Did you see Hulk Hogan on Joe Rogan? Interesting interview." I did not. So I'll have to go and check it out. You've seen it?
Oh, yeah.
You ever run across Hogan being in that area?
I have had 2 interactions with Hulk Hogan. I actually did some stuff with TNA. No, was it TNA Wrestling?
TNA Wrestling when he was there.
So they were in Orlando, and one of the guys who I worked with started directing there, and I actually did you'll love this, and this is on my YouTube as well. I did a pilot with oh my gosh, I'm brain farting right now. Hold on, let me go to the Hogan thing. So I was at TNA. I was on a special kind of like behind the scenes deal. Oh, that's why, Kurt Angle, because I knew Kurt Angle, and he was just starting with TNA as well. And that was really cool because I was backstage, and I brought my brother, and he's way bigger even than I am. And at that time, all the old cats were there. So they had Hogan, they had Ric Flair, they had I think they had Sting maybe, but Sting was there. They definitely had the Nature Boy as well. And so there's this part where my brother, we're going to the bathroom and and then he's taking a piss, and then next to him is Ric Flair with his shirt off, and he's shaving, and he just looks disheveled as hell. And my brother, I was like looking at my brother, don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't ask him now. Wait for him to get out.
Yeah. Bathroom's not the place. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But Hogan is obviously a figure here. If you're ever in the Clearwater area, every Monday he does karaoke at his bar.
Get
in
out of
Clearwater. Yeah, yeah. And people go over there and they do karaoke, and he watches with his girlfriend, and they give them a belt or some shit. I've never been there, but he does these awesome promos every Monday with him and his son, where they're, oh yeah, come check it out. And it's just like him and the Macho Man all over again,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I got to tell you, I popped for Hogan's Place when I saw it across from one of the bars in your movie. I won't say much, but I want to ask you now. So for the arcade bars, you picked 3 specific locations. How did you arrive at selecting those 3 arcade bars specifically? Was it just proximity, or did you already have some experience, or they were the best fit for the movie?
Well, it's really, honestly, it started with proximity. Like I had filmed a couple of out of town things, but not deep dive. When I first go to a place, I'm usually shooting an interview and shooting some B-roll. It's not really in depth. I'm not really getting kind of like the backstory and stuff like that. But because of COVID, because we did get, after we were filming just for a few months, we kind of got like everybody, we were stuck at home. So, and I'm a worker. I'm used to working. I'm always working on a show. I'm always doing something. So when COVID happened and I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Right. So I was like, we're just going to keep moving on this. And that's where that happened. And when you see the COVID kind of section of the movie, that's right at that time. And then by the time I was maybe a month into that, a month and a half, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing, because we really started to get, the movie kind of took a turn that I could have never expected. And honestly, I think it started to develop more of a heart and emotional kind of backbone, if you will, that, my first film was a CrossFit documentary. I feel like it had some of that. My second film, Instaband, was about the music industry. I did travel around. I did talk to a lot of artists, and I think I talked to too many, and they weren't giving. It wasn't as giving to like, here, come into my home. Let me tell you how I feel. A lot of people just want to be face level, and that just doesn't work as well for documentary. And these guys were very giving. I mean, I am in their homes some. They are telling me how scared they are about COVID and their hopes and their dreams. And that's what you really hope for as a filmmaker, because that makes good story and that makes people connect to the characters. I don't think you need to, but I'll say this. I feel that I call this Token Taverns an arcade bar documentary, but it's also kind of like an arcade bar story, because I feel like these stories are mimicked in arcade bars across the country. This is just like one example. So I think people who watch this movie, who do frequent an arcade bar, I think they're going to connect to it, because they will recognize that. They'll recognize community, because community is the biggest aspect to the movie, I feel. And that's, you just can't get that just doing a couple interviews with owners and shooting some arcade footage. You really got to kind of hang out. And we did that. Like it's me and my wife the whole time. We have a very small crew. We're not going around carrying boom poles. I'm putting mics on everybody, and we're carrying this little small cameras and just trying to disappear. And then that's where the magic happens. That's where you get the good stuff.
It's amazing too, because it's so well shot. You would not realize that. It seems like there's a whole production team, boom mics, all that stuff there, but like it's so well done. I was really impressed. And I love what you said, because it's true. Like this movie, when it starts out, is a really cool concept, and then there's a twist that turns it in a completely different direction and gives it so much heart, so much soul. Really becomes a story of I don't know if I can say this without spoiling too
No,
much.
no. You can say survival. It's a story
Survival.
of
That's
survival.
exactly right. Yeah.
Look, I mean, we all know what COVID was like. So, I mean, I will say this too. If you are a small business owner, you're going to relate to this in other ways
Yeah.
as well, because this is very much about the mom and pop shop. And that's also a reason why I didn't go to some of these, because there are some bigger places around, especially when we go to Orlando. There's some bigger places out there. But to me, they feel a little more commercial. Like, oh my God, they have so many more games. To me, that's just part of it. But I think the bigger part is the community and just I love that kind of dive bar, mom and pop shop feel. And I don't think we would have gotten it would have just been like a big party or something.
Yeah.
And I think most of the people in this community, especially people who are probably in this chat, that's not really where they fall. We're like the 5 p.m., 7 p.m., 8, get out around 10 or 10:30, type people who would go to these places. And also the type that I do myself with my son is going at 12 and 1 and 2 on Saturdays, because most of these places are very much family friendly up until like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it becomes a
that's
family
mentioned in the
place.
movie as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there.
All right, so we got to talk a little bit home arcade. Kevin
Let's do it.
Clausen threw a super chat out there. Bob, so you've still been following the home arcade space and all that with the releases from the different companies. Arcade One Up just released their newest title, and it's the first actual new IP they've released in a very long time. People have been waiting for it. They released Time Crisis, but people are pretty upset because it came in at a pretty hefty price tag of $750 for this 3/4 scale home arcade. What do you think of that Time Crisis price tag at $750?
I think that's a price tag that I will not be owning Time Crisis at. I mean, look, I mean, I know prices are going up and up on things, but I mean, you're really starting to get to this price point where if you've got the room, you probably can get you can get something that's a regular arcade at that point. Or even in my case, I have a class of 81 Arcade One Up back here, and I bought that as soon as it came out. Now I want the deluxe, or what do they call it? What's the newest, the extra large, or
the XL, the bigger one.
The XL, bigger, longer, uncut version.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, if those price points aren't right, like let's just say it was at that, I could probably get one. They also make a smaller Miss Pac-Man Class 81 that's a real machine. Yeah. Now I know I'm here nor there. I've got some real stuff. I've got some Arcade One Up stuff. I love it all. So I don't really get into that debate, but I know $750 for an Arcade One Up. And is it on a riser too?
No. This is so there's two new models. So behind me here, I've got some of the XL bigger ones, but most of the stuff coming out this year has been deluxe. So still in the 3/4 scale size format, but it's just one piece. It's riserless.
Right. That's a big step in the right direction. But I mean, I would be. I'm not a big Time Crisis fan, so it doesn't necessarily appeal to me.
My time period
for me, and also some of those games, especially if you don't have other things loaded into it. Once you kind of play through it once or twice, I think it would just be, it would just sit there. I feel like that's where I would fall on something like Simpsons. I love Simpsons and I love the IP, and my son loves Simpsons. But I also know as soon as we beat it once, maybe twice, we're not gonna play it. So yeah, that's not for me. But I am interested in where they are going with some of these cabs, and where I look at, because I'm in a super limited space. We in my last place, we turned our whole dining room into an arcade room, and this was kind of during COVID, and this was like part of what happened because I was in this movie. I fell in love with pinball.
Yeah.
And that happened in this movie. And I never played it before. And now, before I know it, at the end of COVID, we have 4 pinballs in there. There's a Golden Tee. I've got, I've got an At Games. I've got a PS4 arcade machine. And then I come to this smaller place where I got to fit it all in, my small little office, because my wife does keep it in one place. So I have to be very strategic. So where I'm interested is I'm always like, okay, I kind of want to have one gun game, and I want to have one racing game, because those are unique. Like, and I'm still interested in Star Wars, So that I'm looking at that re-release more so than probably the Time Crisis. But I feel like shouldn't they have done the like XL on the Star Wars on the re-release? Or I think it's because people love that machine so much and it's been gone so long, it doesn't matter probably.
So I'm hoping next year that they'll consider doing Star Wars. I kind of was lucky enough to get a little bit of a spoiler recently because Travis MCP, who was working with Arcade 1-Up, he gave me like basically the list of everything that's going to come out this year and what's probably going to come out next year. So I can't speculate, but I would love for them to come out with a Star Wars XL, which was not on the list, guys. So I mean, if they do a Star Wars XL, like I would be all in on that. Awesome game. I just want it to be a little bit bigger. I look at these back here. This is more substantial. This is what they always should have been back here. The XL cabs, like the extra wood. I mean, it couldn't have been that much more expensive. So I get it. These are not the kid ones, but this is what they should have been.
If it was the right cabinet that spoke to me, it might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like put that on a Cubert or something, or
how in God's name haven't they made a Cubert yet? Like if you're a home arcade company who doesn't think you could sell Cubert, one of the most recognizable games of all time, close up shop.
Right. And it's also what's also cool about, one thing I have I don't want to call it an expert, but I'm very well versed on what a rare cab is and what's not a rare cab because of all the places I've gone to. And I don't know if I would per se call Cubert rare, but you don't see it as much.
No,
you really don't. It's not super duper rare, but you don't. I know when you see it, it's like, oh, there's Cubert. Oh, there. It's not like even like if you see a Tron or whatever. Tron's not in everyone, but like Cubert just kind of, and it also stands out too. It's just a different form factor, different color.
Yeah, why Tron's not in every arcade bar or arcade? Because it's so goddamn hard to keep running.
Oh,
trust me, I got firsthand knowledge. I bought I had a real Tron about 2 months ago, and it was a friggin' nightmare, man.
Yeah, I saw that. I was following that whole deal.
Anyways, so thank you very much for the super chat, Kevin Clausen. And also, he gave me another super chat, $3. Where are the funds of this super chat going? So I'm very sorry, Bob. Very sorry. Thank you so very much for your generous support to Michael B. the Game Genie. All funds received will be used for the purchase of a new pinball machine. For me. Thank you once again.
It gets better.
It does.
You gotta love the honesty. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not BS around here. It's going to me. I'm going to buy a pinball machine.
Yeah, I'm going to buy stuff with it. This is it. I am hopefully. There's a rumor that Stern might be re-releasing Stranger Things, and like I got into pinball a little bit too late. It's no longer available, so I am doing everything I can right now. I'm moving stuff out. I'm moving some of my retro game stuff out, and I'm trying to put the money together for November, because if they re-release Stranger Things, I'll move heaven and earth to add that to my collection. I'm getting Stranger Things.
Are you gonna go for the premium? Or are you going for the Pro?
Well, I don't know if they'll re-release the Pro. There's a chance it'll just be the premium. Now, if it's some kind of ridiculous special edition like they did with Jurassic Park there, when was it? Like last week? Did you see the announcement for that? The Jurassic Park 30th anniversary?
Oh yeah,
$12,999.
I was super interested until I saw that.
I won't be in on that, but for me, with Stranger Things for home use, I want to go with the premium because I think it already comes with the UV light kit, and it comes with the projector for the screen as opposed to just the screen. It's not a big difference to a lot of people, but I want that projector. I'm bougie.
Well, here's the thing, and this is my take on Pro versus premiums. Like that is one of the most doesn't affect the gameplay, but feels vital.
Yeah,
like thing that I've ever seen put on. That's why I asked you. Is only because of the projector. Because I was looking, I was like, I haven't quite figured out what gameplay is different, because some things are drastically different. I mean, I was just at Southern Fried Gaming and Venom.
Yeah.
Venom Pro, no. Premium, yes. It's like a whole different game. And they have like some of the lanes and things they have there that aren't there on the Pro. It's just like almost like a third of the game is open area. It's just like you got to travel across the world to get to a thing. And I love Venom.
Yeah.
I mean, that IP is like, oh, and it's so sexy. Both machines look amazing. But the premium, I made the mistake of playing the premium first with Stringer and Ralph and those guys. And I was like, I can't go anywhere else.
No, can't do it.
But, you know, there's some pros that stand out, I feel, that are like the best pros, bang for the buck. And here's my hot take on that. Jurassic Park is one.
Yeah.
Because I got Avengers Infinity Quest back here. And I'm kind of looking to trade it out. And I'm looking at Jurassic Park Pro. I'm looking at Deadpool Pro. Those are like solid pros. You don't miss the other stuff as much. I don't think Stranger Things is one. I think you kind of want that. And I think you kind of want the premium on Godzilla.
That's why I went in that direction.
Right.
I mean, like that's the big problem. I don't mind like you know, if they put in plastics instead of figures and stuff like that. But when there's actual mechanics that are so integral to the game that change how the game plays, like that drop down building and breakaway bridge. Like for me, I was like, that's no brainer. I'll pay the extra couple $1,000s. Like I want the real experience.
Yeah. And look, when you're looking at these games as, I don't want to call it investment, but return on your buck, because eventually, most likely you're going to unload it. Those premiums, especially in home use only, they hold their value way better. And if you can't afford it, the limited probably even more so, like, you know, because of the scarcity factor. But you know, I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it, is like, this is something that I'm eventually going to trade up, trade down, or trade some way. You know, once you have a pinball, it's like you have a commodity that you can now kind of move around with.
Well, see, I never used to understand from the home arcade space, you'd have guys like Pitbull and other people that would write you, and they'd be like, those machines won't retain value. And I was like, I know, Pitbull. No of the gaming stuff really retains value. We're not making investments here. But then you move into the pinball world, and it really is like it's a locked in investment. Like pretty much you might lose $500 if it's a bad title, but that's about it. Like pretty much you're moving it out for what you paid for it. Sometimes you're gaining some pinball equity too.
Yeah. And you know what, tying it in, kind of the way the pinball prices have skyrocketed and that kind of gone up. That's kind of part of the movie. That kind of happens in the movie. And I mean, on my side of things, this is my fourth pinball machine. And I know things are kind of balancing out a little bit as far as like once it, you know, like when I started filming the movie, a new machine was like 5,000 something
per pro.
Then very much within the movie, it became $1,000 more expensive for the same machine. And now they've jumped up even more. But I'm on my fourth machine. I haven't lost any money on pinball, meaning I have one that broke even, and pretty much every other one I've sold it for more than I bought it for.
Yeah.
And this one I'm not really looking. I'm either going to buy it and immediately get another one, or I'm just going to do a swapsies. I'm really hoping to do a swapsies and just swap out with somebody who has a similar pro in the same kind of year range, you know?
Yeah. That's the really cool thing about like this kind of hobby pinball and stuff like that, is like you meet other people that are interested and you move stuff around the community. It's kind of a sharing thing. Again, going back to that community thing, you develop this community around a hobby like we all kind of did with home arcade originally, except we didn't trade home arcades between each other. Vasil says, why does nobody like Mandalorian? I haven't played it, Vasil. That's the reason I can give you right now.
I'll speak on Mando. I'll speak on it. Well, first off, I don't not like Mando. I want to love Mando, and I play it every time I see it. I don't see it. There's only a couple places locally that have it, and whenever I see it, I play it. You know, there's certain machines that are like at your home arcade that you kind of play more of. So when I see something else somewhere, I always go to that machine. So I always play Mando, but I just want to love it more. You know, I guess some people who knew more about pinball kind of schooled me on, because I was in between Mando and Avengers, and they were like, look, for home use, you're going to get so much more use out of Avengers. It just doesn't have as much complexity to kind of the code or the gameplay. And again, I'm no expert. I haven't deep dived on it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, Avengers is almost too complex. I've had it for a year and a half, and I still am not that great at it. I mean, it will hand you your balls and your ass immediately. Like, you can have the best game and the worst game, like, right after each other. And honestly, in some ways, that's kind of cool for a home arcade, or like for a home pinball machine, because you're not going to get like tired of it, and yeah. So, but I love that machine, like the way it looks. I love the art style. I mean, I love the IP. I wish they would get something that's like the ultimate IP for me, and the ultimate gameplay, like perfectly. Like I feel Deadpool is that. Deadpool is definitely that for me. I'm hoping that there'll be a Back to the Future coming around the corner, and I hope it's Stern. Please let it be Stern.
Yeah, that's the rumor. The rumor right now.
Jersey Jack, probably.
No, we don't want that. We don't need another wide body like that.
No, I'm saying I don't. I like, look, here's my hot take on all that stuff is Stern just they have the flow better than I think anybody. And the best, somebody comes to your house, come check this out. That you want a pinball machine that somebody can play for the first time. And it's like, they get just enough to know, like, oh, I could do this again, and get like they get the multi-ball, like maybe the second time they play it. And I don't feel like you get that as much on a Jersey Jack. I'm not even going to talk about Spooky, but
hey, don't shit on Spooky. I still got to play Halloween. I know everybody shits.
I've played Halloween, and I love that IP, and I'm not going to say anything bad about it for you, Mike.
Thank you.
But I will talk about Ultraman, which is exactly like it. And that
I know it's the same game. Like, it sucks. Really quickly, I had this up on the screen. I forgot to mention it. Connell01, Pinball Money, BB. Thank you very much, brother, for the super chat. Can't play the video. I played it too much, and we're running out of time. Papa Brad's Gaming. He was at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. He really enjoyed your documentary as well. He was at the screening. All right, so just going down here. Stringer Films. Master of the Universe is another one that's being rumored right now.
Yeah, I did see that. That sounds pretty cool. I forgot who was. I think that was like is it Jersey Jack or
I'm not sure.
No, Pinball Brothers, maybe.
Yeah, Pinball Brothers, maybe.
That
so
scares me.
The rumor right now that someone floated to me is that Keith Elwin's working on 2 games at the same time right now, Jaws and Back to the Future. And I mean, if that's true, that is like 2 like all-time icons for me. Under Keith Elwin, which is, Godzilla, Avengers Infinity Quest, Jurassic Park. Right now, that man is locked in, just making awesome pinball machines. So that would be cool if that happened. Anyways, back to the movie, because we are getting late here now. So really quickly, towards the end of the movie, we do get more into the pinball side. And one owner, like, he really gets the bug. Is that your fault? Did you get him into it? Like, is that like just a thing that happened towards the end of the movie? Like, pinball became such a big thing, because it's a lot like me. Like, I started this home arcade hobby, and it was all about arcades. But then once I started to play pinball, especially play real pinball machines, I just went all in, got addicted. So is that kind of how things transition for you? And I won't say too much more about the movie. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, you're fine. You're not spoiling anything. You've been great. So are you talking, well, arcade bar owner wise, I'd say all 3 right from the jump, some more than others, but we're all into pinball.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of see that represented. They all 3 have a pinball experience in the movie. And so I think that just comes from the fact that, hey, I own this place and I get to play these machines all I want. One of the arcade bar owners posted a picture on Facebook. His wife took a picture of him playing Pirates of the Caribbean in his living room with like no clothes on, like in the middle of the night. He's just playing, George, that's for you, buddy. But I will say for myself, me and my wife, we did not play pinball at all. Let's play this. And then we move on. And I was always more onto the arcade machines before this documentary. And you actually will see there's a machine that gets delivered to a house, and that's my house. And that is the machine that got me hooked on it, which is Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
And I rented that during COVID, and we had it for about a couple weeks. And we were playing 1 o'clock in the morning, drinking, and me and my wife, and like, oh, fuck COVID, like, this is awesome. And it was such a great feeling. It made me feel like that first day, the first time I played NES Super Mario Brothers, the first time I played an Atari, I was like, this is a whole new thing. And that's been it, man. I mean, like, I've got to get it. I got to get it in at least. I've got to get it outside of my house. I have to get it in at least once a week. I'm on Pinball Map. If I'm going to St. Pete, which I was there Saturday for this really cool game tournament, I was like, oh, look, okay, Three Daughters is right nearby, and they have Aerosmith and, and Foo Fighters. And so for me and my wife, it's really become something that is a huge part of our life, that we actually plan things around now. There's very few times that we're going on date night where pinball is not part of it. And that's completely because of Tokyo Taverns. I'm one of the rare birds that has a wife that loves it equally as much as I do. And we found it together at the same time because of this movie. So that's what made the film so fun at that point, because that was very early in the process. Every time we filmed at a place, I mean, if the camera's a little shaky, I probably got a beer in my hand, and we're like shooting a little bit and going to play a game and having a beer and shooting more and just hanging there the whole night. We spent so many nights doing that.
So one last thing, you're a big wrestling guy. I'm a big wrestling guy. So I really enjoyed one of the arcade bar owners had this wrestling event in the back of his bar. And like, this is something that he had done a couple times. So were you actually there for that, or did you get footage from before, Bob? How did that work?
Well, that was interesting. This is a Vector in Clearwater, and he threw 3 of these events, and actually I found out about that through his interview. And so I was not there. Those things happened before, but I'm pretty savvy at like my research and finding videos online, finding people who were there and getting their cell phone videos.
Oh, wow.
And one of the guys who tells the story about it, who's really kind of the main guy, kind of like who experienced it, is like, let me tell you about this. He had a lot of cool videos, and I just, that's the fun thing about editing and it was tough. I mean, there's a lot of Band-Aids in there, but I was completely telling the story through a lot of cell phone videos for that particular part, because I thought it was so cool and so unique and really kind of showed a different side. Luckily this movie isn't just people playing games the whole time.
No,
it all takes place in this arcade bar, but it shows you there's so much more that comes in because of that. But that was a tricky scene to edit, but it was so worth it. And I think it's really fun. It's a really fun scene. You see some of that in the trailer.
Yeah, so you might not know this about me, but in another life, when I was growing up, I'm the kind of person that anything I wanted to do when I was young, I had to at least try it. Even if I'm not qualified to do it, I got to try it. So I did do some of the independent wrestling stuff for a while back in my early 20s. And it brought back a lot of memories of going to these bars and performing in front of like these people and having a bunch of fun watching that scene. So that's another one that really touched me too, because I was like, yeah, that brings back some memories there, man.
It was a great thing. And that's why I had to include it in the trailer too, So you see that, and especially for these people that are outside of the community, I want people to see that that this just isn't really a really intense, dense documentary about gamers. There's some great arcade documentaries out there, and I've seen them all. Some of them, especially some of the ones if you deep dive on Amazon, can get a little dense and very just so specific to the community that once you get outside of it, it's like clocked out. I wanted to make a movie. Well, first off, I wanted to make a movie, not a film. I wanted to make something super enjoyable to watch. But that if you are into the arcade community, you absolutely love it. But even if you aren't, you could love it as well. It's an easy entrance into this. Like, my hope is to not only like make a documentary for the arcade community, but my big hope is to bring more people into the arcade community because they saw this film.
So last but not least, no, my cock hurts. Mass transit. No, I was not mass transit. Anyways, the last thing about this, I want to tell you about this personally. Like, it's one of the things I talk about. Like, we don't have a location like this here. We don't really have an arcade. We have like in Canada where I'm to, we have a place called the Rec Room, which is like a Dave and Buster's environment where there's all modern games, some redemption, and then there's like 2 pinball machines. Deadpool Pro, which is really good, except like the top is in kind of rough shape. They don't have glass on the pinball machine. They have a piece of plexiglass that's all fogged up, so it ruins the experience completely.
Oh, wow.
We got this awesome pin, and it just sucks. And then there's a Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'm not that fond of. But we don't really have anything here. Like, you go on Pin Map, and there's like nothing. So this has been one of the things I've been talking about the last couple of years is, you know what? There's nothing here. Maybe there should be. So this is something I've been thinking about. And I was watching this goddamn movie last night. And so it's given me a little inspiration to maybe try my hand at this in the relatively near future. Worst case scenario, I end up with a bunch of pinball machines I can't pay for. So we'll see how things go.
Well, you know, the ticket, like the pathway to get there. And me and my wife, we've been thinking about the same thing. I mean, I've got all this knowledge now, and I love to be there, that we're looking at things like the same way. Like if I do something aside from filmmaking, where alternate revenue stream, that's something I would love to do. But you know what you do is, when you're tired of your machine and you're ready to get a new one, don't sell that one. Take it to a bar, put it on location, start to make some money with that. Try to see if the market is right. And then as you get a few of those, then, you know, get a little strip mall location, a little small place, and start it up, bro. But the easy thing is to put a few machines in a place, and you can kind of like test the waters and make a little cash. We've been looking at that with Avengers. Just
putting it out there and becoming like an operator yourself. I'm lucky in the fact that I do know a couple of people here that have machines, want to be operators. So in the event, like they're just looking for a space, right? So maybe if it wasn't a free play space, we could bring some of their machines in, and you know, they'll get the revenue from that. So maybe that's something. We'll see, Bob. Really quickly, we had a huge super chat here from Jason. This is my moderator, super nice guy. Very much appreciate the interview, Bob. Sounds like a great film, and I'll be checking it out. And oh yeah, I'm gonna need some sincere. Michael sorry chat. Sincere Michael. Oh, I know what he wants. You know what he wants. You got to give the people what they want, Bob. I'm sorry.
Do it.
Thank you so very much for your generous support to Michael B. the Game Genie. All funds received will be used for the purchase of a new pinball machine. For me. Thank you once again. Okay, last time, I swear. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it, brother. Anyways, Bob, so anything you want to tell the people before we shut down? Like right now, special event screening on Vimeo. They can go check it out. The link is in the description, guys. And also the trailer. And if you go to Tokens Tavern, there's also a barcode there. You can scan that. It'll bring you right to the watch page. So go check that out, guys. And relatively soon, it should also be available on other services as well, right?
Right. So, yeah, I'll kind of tell you some of the next steps, and kind of for you that have seen the movie or they're about to see the movie, how you can kind of get involved as well. Now, it is an advanced screening, and honestly, like I said before, this is mostly kind of for the community. We're not doing heavy promotion outside of the community right now. It's really for you guys. It will be on Amazon Prime and Google Play in, you know, a couple of weeks, no more than like 3. They unfortunately don't tell us when it drops, but if you follow us, so if you don't follow Token Taverns, whatever your platform is, follow it, because you're going to know. You're definitely going to know. I will definitely let you know. So that's kind of next for that. And the question that I always get is physical media. Yes, we're doing physical media. That's going to be definitely out before the holidays. These things, the way they work, it's called windowing. Just like you're used to with your films, you know, Super Mario Brothers comes out on digital first, and then it you know, for rental and purchase. And then it'll kind of hit physical media. Then it starts to hit streamers, Well, we're kind of doing the same thing, except this is a different window for you guys for the advanced screening. and we're going to do a Blu-ray. It'll definitely be out before Christmas with some extras. I'm looking to do a director's commentary. I'm gonna hit up my boy Ralph to see if he wants to jump in and do the director's commentary with me. That would be fun, with a couple of beers. And then I'll also tell you something fun is we're looking to do, I'm still putting feelers out, but so far the response has been really big, to do a limited number of Token Taverns VHS cassettes.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start probably with a small run, maybe 20 or 30, see how those go. And then we'll go from there. And you know, that's obviously something. It'll be a fully functional VHS, but obviously, and with its own kind of unique artwork that'll be very 80s inspired, almost like an 80s horror movie,
That's
if
dope.
you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're really kind of like trying to go into the retro route, and I'll tell you, probably kind of aligning with the release on Amazon and Google Play. We're also getting the website out, which is basically just mainly there for you to have a one-stop shop to see where all the places you can see it at, and also mainly for our Token Tavern store, where you're going to be able to get shirts. We're going to have a huge run of super fun and unique t-shirts. I already have a Super Mario Bros. NES cartridge inspired that we're about to drop.
Nice.
And we're going to kind of release those almost like a season run, if you will, along with pint glasses and all the fun stuff you can imagine. It has to do with gaming and beer. So that's coming soon. And also we have a couple more screenings, guys. So any of you guys that are going to be at Pinball Expo on the Saturday night of Pinball Expo, and I forget the date, it's like October 21st or something like that. It's at Pinball Expo. Saturday night at 7:00, we're going to be showing a free screening there. And we'll have some of the people there, and that'll be fun. If you're going to be there, definitely come and say hi. And we're also going to be showing a screening at Free Play Florida. And which is cool about those two is Pinball Expo and Free Play Florida are featured in the movie. Yeah. So it's very kind of tied in with them. And yeah, so that's kind of the immediate plans. And if you have seen Token Taverns, if you guys could go on IMDb and give us a rating, and if you're feeling very generous, give us a review. Unfortunately, they require 600 characters, which is probably a couple paragraphs, and it's really out there to take care of the trolls who might not just want to give me 1 star and just say, I hate Billy Mitchell 300 times or whatever. But it's really not that hard to come up to that 600 characters. Yeah. But even if you don't do that, you go on IMDb and you just click the stars, boom, boom, boom. That really helps us when we come out on Amazon, because IMDb is connected to Amazon. So what happens for a small film like this, big in the community, small compared to all the other films coming out, it helps that rise to the top. So the general public will kind of stumble upon it easily, or more easy, should I say. And we've got Rotten Tomatoes that's going to start on September 1st. So there as well. And even if you've given a review, just copy and paste that shit, man. I'm trying to blow it out the water. I'm trying to let people know outside of this arcade community what's up, and just really let people know how cool and big and fun this community, this arcade community is. So, Bob, I'm sorry, I got a couple of questions to ask you before you go. One, I'm here, man. I'm here. I gotta ask a favor. So you're doing VHS, which I think is a cool thing, but what will it take to convince you to do a Betamax version? Well, it's funny. I don't have Betamax, but I actually have boxes of Beta SP, because that's more of a pro format. Like when I first started out in the industry, that was like the pro format. There was no HD at that point, or people weren't using it as much. But yeah, Betamax. I don't know. Maybe we should do that and the Laserdisc. I was going to say Laserdisc too. With each other. A lot of people don't remember this. VHS was the most successful brand, but Betamax was actually better quality. Like people don't realize that. Go back in history and look at that. Oh, I'm old enough to realize. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to just mention to you, and I know this is really late in the game, but there's a bunch of us from this home arcade community all going to this Cleveland Gaming Classic. Now it's really soon, September 21st. But if you could pull some strings, and I do know the event coordinator, maybe there's some way we could set up something for Token Taverns there, so some of these people might be able to see it. I'm putting you on the spot completely. I should have mentioned this before. Hey, look, I tell you what. Let me look at my calendar. Let me look at my flights. I got some points, and let me see what I can do. Worst case scenario, we could just have some beers and play some arcades and pinballs together. How's that sound? Look, yeah, and listen, man. If you guys are gonna be there, I mean, who knows? I might even be able to set up a screening, even if I can't make it. Dope. That'd be dope. I mean, I'm open to it. Look, the movie's kind of out, and by that time, it will be out everywhere. So, we actually did. We didn't really talk about this, but I did like a whole movie tour this summer. We did like five or six paid screenings, kind of up and down the East Coast. A lot in Florida, obviously, but and then ending in Atlanta. But now that the movie's kind of released, I'll be doing these when we do these screenings at expos and conventions. It's more for awareness. It's really like, come watch it with the community. It's going to be a free showing, and it's just really for me to kind of spread the word and let people know about it. The biggest thing for me is, if you're in the arcade community, I want you to know about the movie, and then you can make your decisions on whether you're going to watch it or not. But that's really the way you guys can help a lot too, is tag people, spread the word, because they're not just going to stumble upon it a lot of times. If they don't follow us or they're not deep into it, because some people just kind of dip their toes in there and they're not watching all these shows, like, tag them in, let them know what's up.
All right, guys. So, sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, if you're following me, you're going to have plenty of stuff to share.
All right, guys. So we're going to call it quits, but I do want to say, this is my genuine opinion. There's a lot of really special documentaries out there about arcades, pinball, all that stuff. I mentioned them earlier, Chasing Ghosts, King of Kong, Special One Lit. This one fits so well into that category, and it's the kind of thing you can watch over and over again. It's just such a special feeling, especially if you have some kind of feeling towards arcade bars and going out and spending time with friends, having a couple drinks, and playing some of your favorite machines and arcades. I can't stop thinking about how much fun I had in Chicago last year with my boys, and it's all I kept thinking about the whole time I was watching this movie. So it's truly a special movie. Go out of your way to watch it, please.
Hey, man, I'm just going to say that's high praise, because when I started making this movie, that was my goal. I was like, I just want to kind of be up there with some of these other arcade bar documentaries and stand the test of time. So when they're doing these top 10 lists and they're giving the list of the best arcade documentaries out there, or video game documentaries, that we're kind of up there with them, so that means a lot, man.
Oh, no problem. Anyways, guys, go check out the movie. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bob. This has been Chill and Chat with Michael B. Then I always forget where the outro is.